Hey everyone, a nerd named Mark here. Time to go over episode 38 of Kamen Rider Geats. This is gonna be my normal style review. I'm not gonna do a play-by-play of everything, um, mainly because we're going into the final arc of the show. And while I have been critical of Geats, um, and everything else, I think I really enjoyed this episode. I love this episode. Don't get me wrong, I do. But this episode shine a lot of light on a lot of the issues I've had with the show and some things that I've like mentioned in passing, but really just like shedding the light on it. And man, like, and I don't know because we don't know how things are going to go going into the final arc. I assume because this is episode 38, maybe we got 10 episodes left. I don't know how many episodes the season is. If it has been confirmed, I don't know what it is. So if you do know how many episodes this season is going to be, please let me know in the comments below because I'm really curious about this. I hate that we got Boost Mark 3 at the end of the last episode and then briefly in this episode. It was such a good form. And I was like, I was hoping, not milking it because I didn't want everything to drag out, but it's like, why so quickly? It's kind of like with Boost Mark 2. We got that a bit, and yes, it did show up later on, but he got his laser boost form so quickly. I think, some of the stuff like these two episode arcs and everything else are really, really like overall as a game. That's like the most negative thing I could say about Geats is the two episode arcs, and that yes, this is Kamen Rider Geats. Yes, Ace is the main character, but man, I'm starting to like get this like feeling in my like the pit of my stomach that so many of these plot points and these character growth and these little seeds that were planted throughout the last 37 episodes aren't going to be touched on, and that's going to like, I don't know, kind of tarnish my opinion when the show is over if they aren't brought up. But like I said, like, dude, Mark 3 was such a cool form. I like that like Ace could like bend the fabric of reality, and even main dude who I like the subs say Sewell and like everyone else says something else, so I'm just gonna say main dude for now. He says this isn't a power that one can simply bend to their will, and that it's far more malicious. So I was like, okay, this is a berserker form. This has to be, and you know he even leaves with Ace's mom, and Ace is like falling from the sky and lands on the ground in dehensions. But Ace now is in Dreamland. So I'm like, okay. And in my head, I'm just like, okay, we could see Ace inside his own head. You know, this could last an episode or two. This is the perfect time to like tie up some of the other characters, maybe push their story forward. Instead, every character got like a quick scene to kind of maybe push their story, their individual plots forward barely. Like Kawa comes home, he sees his sister. Obviously, she forgot everything, and he's kind of coming to terms that his sister has no more memories, but he still wants to save all those who were eliminated and lost to the DGP. And I'm like, yes, Kawa, you still have that motivation. Let's go. Let's do this, And then also we go over to Buffa, and he's on his little chalkboard with all his little character writings, crossing off, you know, Nago and Sarah. And I'm just like, okay. And then even Niram's confronting dude about like who is the successor to the goddess. He's questioning how this is, like, because the goddess was supposed to be like a one time, like once in a lifetime type thing. Like this isn't supposed to be a successor to it. And we find out, obviously, soon that it's Sumeri because, she prayed, and I brought it up in the last episode when I reviewed it. Hey, that sounds really familiar. And even, we find out that Sumeri was designed with Mitsume's power secretly within her. And, Samas, Niram's assistant, shows up, and he's even like, wait, you knew about this? And I was like, okay, because, Sumeri did pray, and Ace was able to come back into the DGP and be brought back to life. And I was like, this makes sense. Uh, and like I said, this whole time, like Ace is in his head, and we could have like had this last a little longer. and not like get more time could have been given all these. But it's like I want to know what everyone else has going on. Like, and it sucks when these 2 episode arcs happen, and sometimes 3. Like, and when I'm thinking about all these things, like the disaster arc was literally just there just to introduce Daichi. When you think about it, and Shiromi, or Jeremy or whatever. Like I hate him so much, so I'm glad he's gone. But it's like, and to actually kind of reveal the whole DGP being broadcasted. Other than that, like that arc, I feel like was such a filler and a waste of like a waste of a spot, really, when you think about it. Like, because none of the character growth from it actually like mattered and did anything. So now, we have an Ace talking to this Kitsune masked Ace, and he's bringing up, he's being just like he's trying to dig and figure out what Ace really wants. What is Ace's like real like wish? How does he want the world? And we're not, and he's just picking away at him. He even says like, Ace, you've lived for 2,000 years and you haven't achieved anything. You haven't saved anyone. You haven't even spoke a word to your own mother. And I'm like, damn, he's kind of a savage. Like, oh my God. But like, this is, one of the things where it's like, okay, like this could have, it's handled well visually. Like, I like this because we're finally going to get that break in Ace and finally figure out what he really wants. And that's important, you know? Ace can't just be the sly, cunning character. It was fine to have that type of personality in the beginning of the show because we have rarely had a main protagonist so capable of themselves and having that confidence in themselves. And it was nice to see overall the arc of Ace as a character, all the growth and changes he's had, and even someone like Niram, because all the times we saw Niram throughout the season eating food, enjoying, indulging in the finer things of the world that they're in. So when Main Bad, like, I revealed all the stuff, I knew Niram was going to turn on him. He even says, what good is a DGP that's built upon fictitious lies? And, bro, I didn't think Niram was going to die, okay? But Sama's pulling out the heat and and shooting him, and I'm like, bro, we have all these fantasy weapons, all this other stuff they could use, and drivers, this, that, and she just pulls out the heat, just boom, done. And I was like, at first I questioned it. I was like, wait, it's a gun. Can this, like, how can that kill Niram? And then I was like, oh, wait, we've already been established through Jean's arc with Ace and this and that anyone from the future and this and that, they have to abide by the rules of the reality of the world that they're in at the time, which is why they have to eat food, which is why Jean was able to cry and like, like, what, this is crying, this is sad. Like, so Niram being taken out by a tool of the present time world they're in was interesting. And we find out Samas is Niram's successor. So I was like, damn, everything that was said to Niram makes perfect sense. They said this world has changed him. As if you got to see how happy he was. Like I said, indulging in the food, the escargot, the hand rolled sushi, all the stuff he's always eating. It's like, yes, I feel like he had fallen in love with this world. That's why, the grand end, he didn't even seem too like enthusiastic about that. I'm not gonna lie. The Ace stuff, I feel like it could have been a little bit deeper with him talking to himself, even though this whole entire time his other self is still wearing the Kitsune mask. Uh, because he finally was able to get him to, um, admit what his ideal world would be, and Ace literally says his ideal it would be to destroy everything and rebuild the world anew into his ideal world. And I'm like, okay, and then obviously the Kitsune mask comes off and it's Ace. I assume still it's one of his previous versions. That's what I was thinking. Like we would have got was like Ace talking to all the different reincarnations of himself, or even his father. Because this has been very mother heavy. We finally get to see Ace and his mother, like in human form, in a physical form, anyways, not a statue, interact. That was pretty cool. The whole time is, Ace's mom is like talking to him, I guess, telepathically. Like, I don't know why. Um, I'm sure someone on the internet knows. I don't, because I just watch the show. I don't really dive deep into a lot of the stuff on the internet and production issues or anything like that. And you know, she Krasno said, like, I told you to forget about me. Ace is like, well, that's what him remembering her is what kept him going, and he doesn't want to forget her. And I think it's cool that the world, they're like in this flower field world, and like everything's cracking around them. And I realize, oh, they're inside the goddess statue. That's pretty freaking cool. And you know, I as the granddad started, I thought this main dude, I didn't think he was gonna turn into like Gazer 2. I thought he was gonna be like another form. Like if like it was kind of anticlimactic, honestly, from that standpoint, because he had the Vision Driver, and when he transformed, I was like, that's it, that's what we got, like, because he's not the producer, he's not, the game master, he's above all that. I thought we were gonna get a sick form, but then again, we're going into the final arc now, so who knows, that might change. And um now that the grand end is happening, and it's like this weird, like, the sky's just changing color to like a maroon, magenta, whatever color. And once again, we get everyone kind of like shown briefly again. We see Kyun trying to get to Neon. Bodyguards are stopping him. He's trying to remind her of who she really is, because that's something she told him that she wanted him to do. Because it's the grand end, Kyun disappears. uh, we see Michinaga, and he's standing around, and his driver disappears. And as the sky is getting darker, we see Kawa running up in a very weird filming style, which, I mean, it is what it is. And he's like, I'm not going to let this end like this. And he goes to Henshin, and he loses his ninja buckle and driver also. And I'm like, okay. This is a thing. This is happening like this. And then even, Ace and his mom, everything's still cracking around them. Mitsume's even saying she must atone for her sins for the part she played in all this. And, that her and her Ace's father were like the most happiest when he was born. And Ace still believes she didn't steal happiness and bring misery just to bring him into the world. And, he said he's going to create a world where everybody can be happy. And I'm like, okay. I like that he got that, like, kind of closure with his mother. And that's it for that. I seeing Niram die, like, I think it was as impactful as I would have hoped it would have been. He's just watching Ace, and he's like, he never encountered anyone like Ace over the many years he overseen the DGP, and that he would have liked to witness everything to the end. And I'm like, and it's the grand end. I was hoping, like I said, it's tough because it's not. This feels like it should be almost like a build up to like the end of the season. It feels like this should be the end of the show, and like within the next couple episodes. But obviously, I don't think it is, because we see all like the little viewer eyes going through the gate. We see Kyun and Jean next to each other. They exit as well. I noticed Baroba and Kekra did not, and I do believe. Someone pointed out in my comments, and also in other comments on Twitter, that the wishes said for both of them from the last episode said they would like to remain in the world until such and such. So I was like, okay, so they had wishes that are going to keep them there. And this ends with, dare I say, one of the best fight scenes, one of the best final forms. Everything about this, like, this is where I have nothing bad to say, because like, this scene alone is probably one of the best, like I said, forms that we've gotten in Reiwa, hands down. And man, like, we had Gazer 2 saying the curtains closed on the Desire Grand Prix, everything starts to go dark around him, and all of a sudden we see the spotlight, and there is Ace. And Ace is like, not yet, bitch. And he still has his driver in the Boost Mark 3, and he takes it apart. And when it said Boost Mark 9, I was like, oh, no, this is what we're getting. We're getting good. And then the music hit, and he put the drivers in, and we saw the scene around him, and I'm like, son of a bitch, I'm in. this is, I looked at the timestamp on the episode. I was like, oh, we're getting some good time for this fight. And man, that henshin, that form. My notes literally said right here, we get one hell of a henshin. Like goddamn. And then it's like this form is legit the best final form we've gotten in Reiwa. It's too clean. Like what the fuck? Where was the suit quality hiding at? And that's literally my notes. It's it's because I take like little bullet points and I kind of ad lib around, but that's like literally all the notes. And then we get the theme kicking in. And one of the cool things is like Ace, because he can manipulate reality and everything around him, he's walking down stairs that aren't there to get to Gazer 2. And I'm like, no. And then he proceeds to beat the brakes off this man. Like in the most disrespectful fashion. Like he can warp and rebuild the world around him as he's fighting, and I'm like, bro, I'm here for this. Like, give me this. Like, this is what I need. Like, this is some shit right now. And he even says he's taking the world you destroyed and reforging it anew. And I'm at a loss for words watching this fight. And like the OP's playing like so good. And we even got the second verse into it, even though it's still mid, mind you. Trust Laugh is kind of mid once you get to the second verse. But it was nice to hear the whole entire thing. And dude, Boost 9, all the fighting, like there's so much damn thumbnail bait. Like I'm not even gonna do my normal pointing around like thumbnail bait and like show a bunch of screenshots because there's too many. And that would be like a whole nother hour of just stuff. And Ace's Boost 9 like strike finishing is one of the best finishers of the season. It's up there with any of the zombie ones where the hands would, or the tombstones. And Gazer is gone. And we see the vision driver laying there. We see Soul's like little hand with like all the disappearing like things like he's been defeated as he's picking up. And he even questions if Ace's new world will be a utopia or dystopia. And I'm like, oh. So the final arc, obviously, starting off is going to be Ace in this world that he's rebuilding himself. I'm curious how this is going to pan out, how this is going to work. I don't know. Like, this was such a good episode from that regard. Like, the episode itself, like, at the beginning of the episode, I said that it brought to light a lot of issues, but that's the overall season. This episode itself was good. I liked it. This final fight, everything about this is what made this episode so great. We got closure on certain things that were needed. Now I'm just like, where do we go from this? That is the main question. Because now with Ace starting, like, we don't have that impending threat, that doom and gloom go. Like, we don't have really anything that would constitute needing a final fight. My only thing that I can think of is now Ace maybe realizing Sumari is taking over as a goddess. He wants to save her. Because remember, he made that wish. That's his sister. That's the only thing I could think of that's really gonna. Now it's like, okay, Keiwa, Michinaga, Neon, Sarah, like, let's get them, all together. But we saw in the preview, Jamatos are back and this and that. So I'm like, man, something is going on. I don't know. I can't wait for episode 39 though, and I rarely felt like that in recent episodes where I'm like, I can't wait for the next damn episode. Give me the next episode. Now I'm like, I can't wait till next week. I need to know what's going on. Sorry for the long video. Just a lot of thoughts going on with this episode and really going into just the season as a whole, going up to this point. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you thought of this episode. Do you think any of the plot points and plot holes and seeds that were planted are going to get resolved? Which ones do you think aren't going to get touched on? Or maybe they will. I don't know about, like, I don't know. But thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys in the next video.